Leaders are storytellers because leadership is about creating meaning for people and creating context for why they do what they do. And so I think that's another reason why, people come to work is they feel they're part of something and the leader can tell the story and describe it. And that becomes our tool for communicating culture.
Hey, it's Nikki, Llewellyn Gregory, and you're on Gut Plus Science. You're in for a fast-paced, storytelling, action item-rich leadership growth experience. I hope you make this podcast a habit. I consider it a leadership mentoring tool. Learning together makes us better together, and that is how we change the world around us. Let's get to it. Hey, it's Nikki, and we're back on Gut Plus Science. And today, my guest, he comes from the insurance industry, like deep roots in the insurance industry. He grew up with his leadership journey in this family business, Lockton Companies. For those that don't know, Lockton is a behemoth. We're talking one of the world's largest insurance companies. Marshall is also an entrepreneur. He's an investor and now the owner and partner at Knight Agency. It's a consulting firm that fuels organizational performance by aligning purpose, story, values, people, and products. So today we're breaking down a component of what they do really well, purpose stories. So Marshall, welcome. You could choose any topic for us to go deep on together today. Why purpose stories?
Purpose stories is been very meaningful in my life, kind of getting me to where I feel great about where we are today. But I also believe that people and companies perform when they're motivated by a purpose. It's something they want to do. They feel like it's so much a part of them that it doesn't even feel like work. And it's the essence of what makes them unique. And that's a story that we want to help people and companies illuminate.
I love that. And before we go into your story, because I really want to use your story as an example, the journey and the purpose story behind you. How do you define purpose story for someone's like, give me something tangible here so I really understand what this is? How would you define it?
Yeah, I mean, I think a purpose can be explained for a person in a lot of different ways, but a purpose story for a person, I think, is the thing that is their unique gift. And that comes from a book by Nick Craig I just wrote, but it's also been described as somewhere where, your passion, your greatest gift or talent, and some need in the world intersect. And so that's kind of the personal purpose, but it breaks down to, really what the essence of who you are and what you're meant to do. And I think a purpose story is probably a narrative that describes that purpose. And so it can be sort of the hero's journey of discovering what was already innately you, generally, through some challenge and maybe with the guide of somebody else, but that becomes the story of a company or a person. And it really just is a way of drawing people in to make it more emotional, to make have more impact and more memorable way of describing a person or a company and its culture and what they're all about.
I love that. My notes here that I'm just taking to kind of chew on and share with our team, the essence of who you are as an individual, the journey to finding your sweet spot in this life. And then it's how others get to know you, right? It's what they start to remember because it's this story that usually stories are remembered. It's like we don't remember the facts and figures, we remember the story. And so we want to hear yours. Tell us your journey. I shared a little bit about your background, but tell about your journey and how you articulate your purpose story today.
Yeah. So my journey is pretty normal guy growing up in Kansas City. I was lucky to have an uncle, Jack, who started an insurance brokerage 60 years ago about. And, Jack was just my uncle to me, but he was a bigger than life character and kind of a caricature at sometimes. But he also, he just was a bigger than life person. But anyway, Jack had the idea to start an insurance brokerage. He was in sort of an executive position in an underwriting company, but was good at sales. So he started doing that. And my dad joined him 10 years later. So I kind of grew up with that business. We were a nice sized Kansas City business at the time, but, not the business that it is today. So I grew up, it was just kind of part of my life. So that was kind of the background from a business standpoint. I was always kind of a creative kid, loved starting businesses and imagining up things. Like I work with my best friend to create experiences and, make home movies, and read things about marketing when I was a kid, which is kind of weird, but read like Ogilvy on advertising. So I just love this like marketing media world and love doing campaigns and creating things. First job was a great combination of all those things. Was in Washington, D.C., and I worked for a company that did marketing, but for social impact and political campaigns, and loved it. Ultimately, I ended up coming back to Kansas City. I wanted to be part of the family business after going to business school. I'm probably a longer story about like why that is, but made that decision and joined the family business, and is the first person in the family to not really be focused on sales, but to be focused on operations. And for 15 years, that's what I did. We worked in the operating group with the executives of the company, a lot of different things, but building sales leadership programs, associate leadership programs, managing a few shared services groups, and then ultimately overseeing several of these complementary businesses that was something I wanted to do, based on my entrepreneurial interest, and helping these smaller entities that were a little bit different than the rest of the company get off the ground. So that's what I did for 15 years. I could pause and then get to the next part of the purpose story if you want.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. Yeah, feel free to keep going, because as soon as we really grasp yours, we're gonna have you help us think about how you could guide us in the work you all do at night. Like, how do we think about this in creating our purpose story or elevating our purpose story?
Yeah. So, I mean, Lockton's an amazing company. I love the company and loved working there. My uncle always used to say, and dad used to say that like people were the only thing that we had to sell, and they were our greatest asset, and we had to take care of them. And, we didn't really, the company didn't make the people, the parents made the people, they just found each other. And so that was a big part of the storytelling. And the company was great at narratives and telling the history and the philosophies. And that was the part I was most drawn to. Working with our CEO, kind of on the purpose, was one of my favorite things that we did, and trying to align the shareholders and around that purpose. So there's so much I loved about the company, and we could go on and do another episode about Lockton. But there was a point in time, it's kind of during COVID, where I was having challenges with it. I think there was a number of reasons for the challenges. One of them was I had decided to help these complementary businesses, and some of them weren't doing that well. Like one of them was doing well, but it was didn't really need me day to day. One of them was pretty neutral, and one looked glamorous and exciting from the outside, was causing kind of controversy within the family internally. And then another one we had to shut down because there's all these different challenges, which I think created some interpersonal challenges with the family, but it's probably more just me being in my own head about it. So that was kind of the vulnerability piece there. And there was also leadership transitions, and I just wasn't feeling part of the team as much as I had in the past. I identified with work a lot, and was a big part of me and how I describe myself. And so not being part of the team hurt, and I decided to kind of overcome that challenge. I mean, it was a kind of a dumb challenge. It was a thing that was like, okay, really, you've got this great opportunity to have this great blessing, and very few people do. And I was kind of complaining about telling the story about, not being included, and taking business issues and turning them to personal, like, and it just was something that I needed to get past. And so I, took the time with what I call the help of a guide. That's what a purpose story is about. Help of a guide. Have a great coach, which I'm also fortunate to have. Work with a lot of family members, and he teaches people what he calls the opus. But the basic thing is knowing yourself better. What's your worldview? What's your identity? What are your principles? What are your passions? And then your opus is your overarching vision and your purpose statement, and how you're going to go about achieving that. So got clear on that, and decided that my purpose was to invest in people so that we all have the opportunity to thrive. But that for me was really about, I love working with small businesses. I love working in creative industries. I love the culture building aspect Lockton does. So ended up deciding to, kind of thinking about different alternatives, but ultimately said, I'm going to write a business plan about investing in businesses that share these traits, that are great culture businesses. And so I named Meraki, which is to put something of yourself into your work. And I think that's, basically the same thing as purpose.
It's so powerful. And, you just think about life and the shortness of it, right? And we get this one shot. There's other people that want to argue and they're like, oh, we'll be back and we come back. And great. But this one shot that we have right now at life goes so fast. And it can be very easy for humans to surrender to the, I don't know if I want to say toxic positivity, but I'll use that for right now of, but we should feel grateful we have these things, even though, we might be in a dynamic that doesn't feel like it's using our strengths. We don't feel like we belong. We don't feel like we're making an impact, but we're blessed with a great opportunity. However, that could then turn into years of, wow, I don't feel like I've used this one blessing of a life that I have.
That's exactly how I got to that point. I was like, I mean, Lockton is very exciting. It's hard for me to replicate. Probably won't ever replicate the excitement of being a global company and the things that they have going on and the great relationships that I had there. And then also you get the kind of the factor of just saying that's what you are about when you're interacting in a small city in Kansas City, and so feels good. But like you said, there's this one, you only get to do it once. I, at my core, probably am a creative, imaginative person, and I love businesses that make an impact, and I love culture businesses. And I think that if I hadn't done this, I would, at the end of my time, would have said, I regret that I didn't take a different path. And so the purpose became kind of the guide and the confidence to act. It's not very glorious, kind of taking your stuff out of the office and from a nice office that you had and going out on your own and being solo for a while and just very kind of lonely, making calls and just seeing where this takes you. But that's the beauty of purpose, is it makes you take risks that you might not otherwise need to take or want to take, because you feel emboldened that there's a bigger overarching narrative that, all of a sudden you get to be part of something more exciting, and it attaches meaning to your journey. So that's why, kind of share the vulnerable part, and that's what a purpose journey is.
Yeah, and I wanna just, call this out really quick. It's a really powerful story because the majority of people are in a place right now. I mean, there's so many statistics. I've been in this world. I was sharing with Marshall before we kicked off, like, how did I even get into this? And I started in EAP, employee assistance program work. And, from then till now, it's always been fighting for people to feel valued at work and to have the energy when their workday is over to be the parent, to be the spouse, to be the community person, the volunteer, all of that they want to be. And when we don't have that fuel from the hours that we spend at work, we can't be that. Like we lack the abundance to be able to give of our full selves. And I'm like so passionate about that. And I think that your story can resonate with the masses because it's real. Like there are so many people that are in the thing, in that role right now for the status, for the money, for the whatever that truly isn't giving them the life-giving components that allow them to be the person that they wanna be. And so I think it's just really powerful. And it's not easy to step away. And one other thing I wanted to say is, the seasons of life, we can cherish a past season. We can be like, "Man, that was great and it was awesome." Doesn't have to be anything wrong, bad. It was just like, it was a season. And that season has ended, and that's okay. And we're on to this next season, which I just think is a good grounding place.
I've never thought about it that way. I think the season's a great way to describe it. Like, there was great times at Lockton. I don't want anybody listening to think otherwise, because I love the time and the company. Now I love the role. I get to still play there. But you also, like you said, have one opportunity to do something. And I realized, I was fortunate that not everybody has as easy of a path to follow their passion. And so why not take it? Why not take the opportunity? And the thing that I did there for 15 years gave me so many experiences about how to work with service businesses, how to help sales, how to develop leadership programs that all are part of what I'm doing today. So it often sounds like privilege, I guess, to be able to say, "Oh, that's a really first world problem," but at the same time, it is. We all want to do the things that you feel like you're called to do.
That's right. Yeah. And it just made me think of something. I really love this topic. And I know we're going off in left field just a little bit deeper before we get into the purpose story, but there's so much power in us living out our true full selves rather than the mediocre self. Because you think about like in business, you're like, yeah, I had a good day, right? The team is not on fire when it's just like, it's a good day, it's fine, right? Like when you're winning, when things are that's when the energy happens and like energy propels. And so, if we're just like, yeah, it's not bad. It's not bad. I'm just, but it's not like you're not living the full life. We get one shot. So yeah, seasons of life. We have the seasons. We have the opportunity to go for like what we were meant for. Now, Marshall, tell us what this looks like if we break this down. Like, how do we do this for ourselves?
And I'm borrowing liberally from there's lots of good authors and experts in this space. I'm borrowing because I'm a learner and read a lot about this stuff. So you probably footnote everything that I'm saying that somebody else said at some point. But I think that it starts with being aware, right? And paying attention. So I think one thing that I would recommend anyone do is write a lot. And this one I'll directly quote, but this Nick Craig author on Purpose said, writing about three things. So one of them is writing about what do you remember from your childhood. Another one would be what are your greatest passions and what's that feel like and how do you describe it? And the third one would be a crucible moment, like some challenge that you overcame and why that was important to you. And then from there, finding the words that describe that purpose and keep working through it. So mine was kind of long-winded for a while. And then I went through the Stagen leadership program and kind of wordsmithed it and created other words, which became to invest in people so we all have the opportunity to thrive. That is one that I can look at every word and say that it has meaning. Investing is what the work is now, investing in companies, but it also is investing in people, invest in opportunity because I believe that we should have an equal playing field. And if we don't have an equal playing field, at least have the chance, help people have the chance to all do great things. And thriving is, a world that we are living our best lives. And so you kind of work through the writing and the thinking about it, find something that resonates with you. And it usually comes somewhere from your history and what is just innately your essence.
Did you call that a purpose statement? What was the term for what to invest? Say it again too. To invest in people to give them the opportunity to thrive. Is that what I heard?
Invest in people so we all have the opportunity to thrive. Yeah. And purpose statement. Yeah. So that would be like if Knight was doing this for a company, we would start with a statement like that. And for a company, I would say it's often starts with the founder. So the founders, they have their own story, right? They have their own purpose. And so the company kind of became an expression of that. And so go back to what their writings were, what their actions were, and kind of discover that purpose or that thing that drove them and made them see the world the way they saw it and capture that. It's easy to just talk about legacy stories, but it's really the essence of that founder. Like Steve Jobs, you can see the essence of him and Apple's purpose of, creating products to serve the world. I'm paraphrasing, but it was all about his obsession with products, and you could kind of discover that. And then you could also listen. Just go to what we do is we listen to the executives, we listen to people in the front line, we listen to the owners and shareholders, and get that truth, those nuggets of wisdom that come out, and then just ask the question why. Multiple times, like why? So why is this the reason that you exist? Why is this the function that if everything else went away, that only you could serve in this world? So you're trying to get to something that is the reason that we exist, and then it becomes a worthwhile journey for everyone to go on.
I love that. And the thing that you illustrated so well with your statement is the importance of every word. And there's the reason why every word in that statement is there and you articulated that. I think for those listening, sometimes we write statements and they become print for our websites or our walls in our buildings or whatever the swag we have. But it's like something that others don't really embrace. And it's like you ask someone on your team, like, what is our, purpose statement or our culture statement or whatever you call it? And they're like, hold on, let me go look. Right. It's not a living thing. It's a, I don't know, what's the opposite? Dead thing? I don't know. It's not alive.
It's just words, yeah. It has to mean something to you. I mean, it could be generic to somebody else, but if it really is true to you, that's the reason to, and then you wanna be able to motivate people, and that's why you have a story, a greater narrative to it, because I think a story is much more impactful than just the statement. The statement's kind of the guiding force, the navigating North Star, but the story brings in more, values, legacy, where you're going. So I think it becomes the story of that other people can join in a company's case. Like, where are we going? Why should I come along with you? What's noble about our quest? That becomes the story of a company's purpose.
And it's so powerful when that story becomes a ripple effect, a snowball, right? That others take and, you just watch other people living it out. Like that's such a compliment to the leaders who did the work to make something so alive that others take it and make it theirs, and they're out repping that so well versus like the opposite that I was kind of joking about, but it is real where they're like, I'm not sure. Let me go to our website real quick and I'll go read that off there, right? The opposite is, I mean, people take it and they live it out. It's awesome to see. And I know that's what you guys do at night. That's what you help companies and leaders to do. I think you have an example about a purpose exercise that you did. It might have been like with your team or a client that you were going to share.
Yeah. So I didn't get to the story of how we got to night. So that's I guess the next part of the purpose story is, so put yourself out there. With Meraki was the sort of investment company, holding company. We found this company. So Night is a 30-year-old business that is founded by Mike Hinn, and it's a business that for the last, say, 10 years has really been focused on how do we use storytelling to connect people to strategy. And we do that by really understanding the company and helping them tell their story. We can get into more of why Night and how it's a great kind of expression of personal purpose and company purpose. But Night's purpose before I joined was already to build business through human connection. And we do this for clients. And so it's like we haven't really done a great job doing this for ourselves. So we asked one of our great talented strategists to put together an exercise. We do an exercise probably every quarter town hall on purpose and kind of illustrating the purpose of building business through human connection. So she did one that was, I would say, it's not the first time this exercise has ever been done, but I've never thought it would turn out so kind of perfectly for that purpose. So she started with a ball of yarn. She told something about herself, and then she's asked someone to raise their hand if it resonated with them and connected with them. So someone raises their hand. It only took to the third person until everyone was in tears in the group. I mean, we happen to have a great leader who's having some difficulties with her husband's health. So she talked about the importance of the family nature of Night and how they are all there for each other and the support and the teamwork. And by the end, everybody, not everybody, but almost everybody was sharing something that was probably a level deeper because of her risk. Everyone was sharing a level deeper than they might have in a normal company setting. But that's just the culture, and it predates me for sure, but that's the culture of the company. It's really this company that cares more, and they do the right thing when no one's looking. By the end, we took a picture because you got the yarn all across the room, and I was able to share a little bit of what I shared with you earlier about being vulnerable, and maybe that was a little different than what they thought was my story, and it was just a great day.
Mm, that's amazing. And I know recently Danielle, who is your colleague in leadership as well over at Night, she was sharing just one of the core pieces of purpose and the stories you create is that connection, like the true connection that you have to others. And I think what you just illustrated right there with that exercise is like that's what lived out in that, like people connecting at a deeper level, and like the statement that you shared and every word having meaning. It's that connection. And that's what I think when you said earlier, are we going to do this for leaders? Are we going to do this for businesses? It's like there's a lot of parallels here. And so much of it is like how we are connected to the brand, the company, the person, because of like how it makes us feel.
Yeah. I'm borrowing again from Boyd Vardy, great podcast I just heard the other day, really inspiring one. And he talked about leaders are storytellers because leadership is about creating meaning for people and creating context for why they do what they do. And so I think that's another reason why, people come to work is they feel they're part of something and the leader can tell the story and describe it. And that becomes our tool for communicating culture. What Knight does with stories is we use stories to connect people to the company. So that's the purpose. We connect people to the leader being vulnerable or, sharing their experiences. We connect to the work. So my work is personalized to the company's purpose. I understand what I do within that. And then connection to each other. So can I be a person and a professional at the same time? And do I feel I have a group that I belong to? And so that's what we think stories can do is that they help illuminate all those things and personalize all those things.
Hmm. I will give a shout out real quick. And I know I shared this on another episode of Gut Plus Science, but our team did a intro session with Knight to kind of learn a little bit more about the work that Knight does. And they were like, it wasn't even really, I don't think necessarily planned. It was like, oh, we're just going to show you a video really quick. Let's just show you an example. And I think there were 5 people from my team on there. I was one of the 3 that was grabbing the Kleenex. I was like, dang, like, that's a story, like, I mean, it wasn't even a, "Hey, we have this prepared, this presentation to show you today." It was just like, "We'll just show you a video real quick of what we do," and there was, like, it was moving. That's the word, moving, like, really advanced, just elicited an emotion. I will give you all props for that great work that you're doing. Marshall, I know this is going so fast, and we're gonna continue to share lots of nuggets from you on Gut Plus Science and People Forward Network. Let's talk about the 3rd layer. So this journey, you've been sharing your background, your purpose story, and how that's evolved. I know that the 3rd layer, your new podcast, it is a passion project. It is tapping into that sweet spot when we said about the essence of who you are and focused on, your gifts and living those out. Can you talk a little bit more about 3rd layer, the focus on family-owned businesses and what's coming with the show?
Yeah, I'm really excited to do this. And, I think that is that purpose that's having me take the risk. And people who know me probably would say, I don't really see you doing a podcast. But I love the chance to talk to people who I want to talk to. And I love learning about family businesses. And family businesses, I think, are really an interesting topic to explore, especially when it comes to culture, which is the focus. Family businesses have tons of challenges because they're complicated. You take family, and that's complicated enough, and then you throw owning and operating a business together into it. We've all seen Succession, but they're not all that dramatic, but there's common threads in a lot of family businesses, and there's lessons learned from them that people can navigate these things really well. And it just takes, there's conferences where people can learn from one another, and this is a chance to do that in a way that we can explore a little deeper and have conversations about culture and great leaders too. I mean, it's people who I believe are leading family businesses with culture orientation and trying to be people forward. Andy Eby, I met through the Stagen leadership program I talked about, and he, father and mother, started Bickford Senior Living, a senior living care, and they became of this beautiful manifesto I wish Knight had done called The Heart of a Caregiver, and told the story in a really amazing way. And this heart of a caregiver has become his personal purpose as well, and how he thinks about his role in the world. And it's one of the most culture oriented forward businesses I've ever seen because of his passion for it. But then it's propelling him forward to help transform healthcare for seniors overall because of this draw to what he's learned about himself. So that's the first episode, which I'm really excited about. Another one, Kansas City leader, Tyler Knopberg, U.S. Engineering, 5th generation business, talking about his dad unfortunately tragically passed away when he was in high school, and then he went off and worked in other businesses, sort of early career success, and had to make a decision whether to come back and join the business. And how do you navigate leading, in a different way that you're not under the family guidance, mentorship like a lot of people are, but you got to establish a different kind of relationship. And those are the kind of stories that we're going to dive into. And it's kind of an intersection point for me to be able to talk about and my lived experiences in family business, but also through this lens of culture and performance.
I love it. I can't wait to hear these stories that are coming, all the goodness that's coming with the third layer, because I know how much heart has gone into this, and just the selection of guests. I had jotted down in my notes like crucible moments, and the greatest passion and the deepest understanding of who people are. And I think just being able to hear those stories through a podcast and learn from each other as family owned leaders, right? Like, there's just so much power in that, and that's what people follow. Like, we want to attract and engage and find people that are just ready to be a army together, right? Towards a mission, and that's what does it. And I'm just so excited to hear those episodes. Marshall, it's been really great. We're going to head over to our lightning round now, where we get to just learn a little bit more outside of what we've been talking about, getting to know you, just a little fun stuff. So, the very first question that we've been asking for 7 years. So, this one's not new. Everyone expects it. Your favorite book of all time, or a favorite recent read. We're going to add you to our list of leadership recommended books.
Yeah, I think when I started getting into this culture work, this intersection point I described earlier, I picked up Setting the Table by Danny Meyer, the founder of, Shake Shack, but also Gramercy Tavern and Union Square. And I worked in the restaurant business when I was in high school and college as a server, and I like going out to eat now. But his analogies between hospitality and customer service and creating cultures overall still really informs my thinking about this. And their ability to train people around a certain way to act and a certain way to belong as part of the organization is foundational to this stuff.
I could see why that would be a favorite book of yours. You got a theme going here. Okay, so I heard you are a very big Kansas City Chiefs fan. Tell us a little bit more about that. Has loyalty been there for a real long time? Are you like riding the high right now with how things are going? Tell us more.
I could rewrite my purpose to say my purpose is to follow the Chiefs, to see the greatest quarterback of all time play for us. So I have loved it since I was a kid, and we went through many bad years before we got these good years. But I try to go to every game, and it probably my that and this business and my family. Those are the three things that are that I love.
Yeah, we couldn't get off this episode without capturing the Chiefs, and I've become a big Chiefs fan. But I really admire and can't wait to see them just continue to do the.
It's culture. It's all about culture with Andy Reid.
It really is. That culture is fire. It's fire. Okay, so there is something about a time in your life that you were an intern and it started like a celebrity friendship or two. Tell us about that.
So yeah, when I was young, like I said, I loved movies and media, and did this program in Duke in Los Angeles where we were lucky to be in LA for a semester and test out the entertainment industry. And so, if you remember the TV show Politically Incorrect with Bill Maher, I was an intern on that show, and I as part of the internships, most internships are pretty boring, but we got to walk the guest from the entrance to the green room, and he always had like the B-list celebrities. So I met like Danny Bonaducci and Little Richard and, kind of regulars on Politically Incorrect. And friendships might be a stretch, but I did get Little Richard lost, and he gave me a copy of his Bible. So I have that memory of the entertainment industry.
Yeah, that's cool. That's so cool. And Marshall, what is the best way for people to connect with you if they have follow-up question? I know we're going to definitely link out to Night and your podcast, The Third Layer, but if someone just wants to reach out to you direct, how do they do that?
Yeah, I'd be happy. I'd love to talk about this, but it's Marshall with two L's, Marshall at nightagency with a K.com.
Marshall Lockton, thank you so much for joining Gut Plus Science. And here's my truth you can act on from our conversation around the purpose story. Thank you for sharing your story and the essence of who we are and our journey to finding our sweet spot. That is our purpose story. Thank you for going deep and sharing yours and just illustrating what that looks like in the key components to help all of us to be on the journey of our purpose story and to then build that into our company having a purpose where people are connected to the purpose of the company. I absolutely love that. You had talked about the power of crucible moments and crucible moments being things that really shape our journey and our purpose. And you shared insight into yours. And it's a great opportunity for those of us that are listening and learning from you to find the threads in those key crucible moments that shape our future. You talked about the focus statement, which every single word in a focus statement has meaning and is a very powerful component to our purpose story and one that can be very powerful for all of us to take and make sure it's up to date or do our first one. Thank you so much for sharing and just encouraging people to have a purpose story, have it really clear in a focus statement, and help your people connect to your company because of the purpose that it's living out. It's all part of the story. We'll see you next time. We just left the world a little bit better. Now, go do something with it.